Hey, my name's Shawnshawn. I sell art on shawnshawn.co. Today we're going to react to Harriet Winton. So she has a YouTube channel. It's called Winton Paper Co. So a little confusing because I guess it's focused only on paperworks, which is fine, but that's very limiting. So if you expand later to acrylic or to oil, you're kind of screwed with that name. Also narrowed down, but this is a great niche. So on the other hand, it's kind of like a good niche. So I'm not sure how I put it. She has a picture of her, a little bit of watercolor. It's unsure of what, this is colored paper. If you're an artist, you recognize this. As a casual viewer, I'm not sure, just kind of a little bit of splash of color on a paper makes sense. Maybe actually something that's, you can see that it's a forest, you can see it's a flower, or something that's with paint. Her logo is Winton Paper Company with a splash of color. That's kind of okay, but you never recognize the face, so I would put the face of the brand on the face so you can see, just narrow down to just your face. I think that's a stronger branding, because it could be any paper company making paper that has nothing to do with artists. It could be, it just looks like a paper company, so it's a little confusing, the name, to me. I mean, I would call it Winton Watercolor instead of Winton Paper Company. I mean, it's fine if the website is that, but it just doesn't make sense to Winton art would be stronger, I think, from my perspective. She has an intro. She has one of our how to paint butterflies, which I think is a strong way to lay out the website for you. So that's just what YouTube puts out. She has videos on top. And then she has popular videos, she has watercolor, foil, and foliage, shorts. So just a really short list. She could break this out. She has 621 videos, so she could break that out into more playlists on the homepage, I think, and kind of, focus it in on maybe landscapes, on animals, insects, plants, that kind of separation. She could kind of start building out more playlists on the homepage, per se. This is a nice, simple way to do it, but I would probably break that up into more. If you have 600 videos, you have a really lot of back catalog to dip into, so to say. I would move the popular videos ahead of videos, because most of your viewers are brand new. They're probably 70, 80, 90% are brand new. If they get on that popular playlist, they're going to see more. You get better watch time, you get more people to your website, so it's just kind of a no-brainer to do it that way. The first video is called How to Paint a Watercolor Tulip.
Hi everyone and welcome along. Today we're going to paint a tulip in a really loose, simple watercolour style. The tulip just happens to be the first project in my book, New Botanical Painting, and it's been about 2 years since I painted that project, so I thought it was high time for a refresh.
So I think it's a really strong start. You should start with a headshot. You might want to comb your hair, I don't know. I mean, I have a 5 o'clock shadow, so I'm kind of like, I'm falling into that category as well. There's an artistic look, and then there's kind of messy hair look, and it's kind of like, messy hair look, just kind of, it doesn't have to be American. American is very polished with the hair. So you can have it rough and natural, that's fine, but I would comb that out. It's going to look a lot better. She obviously has slightly wavy hair, so that's kind of a challenge, but it looks like she just rolled out of bed and like, hey, I'm going to make a video. Which is ironic because that's what I've just done, but let's skip ahead a little bit to the painting step.
So we can say goodbye to the pencil and we can start to wake up our colours.
So she's penciled in.
So I'm going to do some lovely blush pink tulips. So to start off, I need to create a blush colour, and I'm going to do that by doing a blend on the page. And it's really good that she has the whole setup of the paints right next to the paper, so you can see at the same time what she's mixing. So that's a really cool thing. I don't do it in my videos, but as a painter, I really think that's a really strong way to show your painting tutorials. Pale orange and the tiniest bit of cadmium yellow, just a little bit. And then I will put in a very small amount of permanent rose, but it's only a tiny bit. So you can see here we've got a very, very dilute colour that, oh, it's starting to get pink here, that's good. So we're just mixing.
All right, let's skip ahead, it's taking forever to mix.
And then simply
super light wash, that's really interesting how she starts. But that's typical watercolor, you start very light and then maybe darker later.
So I'm going to drop in a little bit of permanent rose up at the top there. And then I'm going to move on to my next one. So I'm using that curve at the base there.
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Like they had it in them to paint some flowers, which of course you all do.
I like she doesn't have painted nails too, because this always looks like kind of goofy if you're an artist or painting your nails, because That means
of
you're not
the
focused on your
different,
art, you're focused on your nails.
foreign language versions
that.
of my book, because they're different coloured, different patterned copies, and I think it'd just be really helpful for you guys to see all the different ones, just if you're ever wondering if I've actually written more than one book. I have actually only just written one book, but there's an American version, English version, but we'll get to that. Okay, so I've got some alizarin crimson, and it's just quite concentrated.
Nice zoom in so you can see what she's
I'm
doing.
just going to drop some in. I've waited for my flowers just to dry a fraction, and now
That is kind of a cool
doing
technique.
these strokes at the top that most of them are just touching the tips of the curve, but I'm also dropping in a few sort of new shapes like that.
Scroll ahead a little bit.
With 6 brush, I like to just have a little bit more control. And you could, if you want, you could start just shy of the base of the flower, and then if you wanted to go back in with a bit more control, that's absolutely fine. And then I just like to get a tiny bit of blend going there. Tulip stems are quite broad. Just picking up a bit of that.
So very nice style there.
What I'm doing is I'm just allowing these stems to dry before we place our tulips in. And because all these stems are drying nicely, what I'm doing now is I'm just smoothing these stems out, so they are touching but they're maintaining their shape. They're not overly blending into each other. This is a nice little trick.
Yeah, it's very nicely done. Let's skip out a little bit more, guys.
But essentially what we're looking for is this kind of enwrapping, I don't know if that's a word, wrapping up of the stem, encasing, that's what I was trying to say.
It's very nice. Those little tiny streaks really make the plant pop. It's just minimalist too. It's a very nice style. It's just very minimal application of paint. I mean, most of it's still 70%
There we go, really nice. And then
white.
I'm just gonna get a little bit of Prussian blue in with this. So we've got a sort of stronger colour here.
Which is great for just a demo. You just focus on one thing, you kind of know what's going on.
Got here 3/10.
I don't know how people keep their
Just
brushes
pick out little bits of detail,
this fine-tuned.
little bits of
Sometimes
shadow.
I buy these brushes and they always end up like frizzed at the end, so I don't know what they're doing to keep their brushes well maintained. There's some trick I'm missing here. Again, very nice detailing. Just a little tiny elements like this are really going to make the painting pop.
And of course there are so many different types of tulip. You could have real fun with the different colours.
Scroll ahead a little bit to the final product.
Gone their own way with a
that's
new
her.
cover. That's the German version there. And it's lovely to see. That's the French version too. And there are more than that. I've only got my hands on those ones.
That's really cool. She has multiple languages on her book. Yeah, if you ever write a book, I would highly encourage any artist that writes their own book like that. Definitely translate to every language, because what a lot of people don't know is a lot of people, like say in the English speaking world, they don't know anything about the French speaking world. The people in the French speaking world, vice versa, they might only have a little fraction of the amount of the English world actually in the French world, so they just don't know your work at all. Same with German, Japanese, any high paying market there's going to have clientele, and I would definitely translate to. It's definitely worth the translation efforts. If it's a very small country, it's kind of like up in the air, but you know, eventually that'll pay off long term, I think. The next video is called How to Paint a Watercolor Waxwing Bird. She might want to include her name in the title as well. Very simple title, very great thumbnail.
Hi everyone and welcome along. I'm so glad that you've been enjoying painting birds as much as I am. So today we're going to have a go at waxwing.
So this is a great intro with her looking at the camera. You kind of get a set of her studio, so you can see it's actually messy. The last video looked like super clean, which I'm always like, how's that super clean? Doesn't make any sense. So this looks like a real watercolor painting studio. You can see it's really grained in. She's got her nice YouTube thing in the background. I think she has like a board or something on top. I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe it's to soften the sound, because you definitely don't want to be surrounded, like behind the camera, you want really soft this stuff. This will make a huge difference in your sound quality. I have everything behind me so it softens the sound quite a bit, so it makes a huge difference. And she's showing the paints on screen, this time at a diagonal, so it's kind of cool. You get a different feel for it. So a really dark pencil this time.
And then we're going to get the amazing kind of plumage off the back of the head. And from the oval, we actually get the line.
Like, I'm surprised she's doing this so dark. In pencil, she's going to do watercolor later.
Amazing markings.
I would use a very, very light pencil to do this, but... Let's scroll ahead to after the drawing part.
Bring that in a little bit. I'm still sort of avoiding the wings. Just sort of going around them for now.
Watercolor is tricky because you can add, but you can't subtract. So it's really like, you can kind of subtract if it's still wet. If you go too much into saturation of colors, you're screwed.
Okay, time for some raw umber.
These detail shots really make the painting too, versus doing a lot of shots will be farther away. But this really details really nice.
Of the body now.
And here she changed up the camera angle, which is nice.
Help sort of define the...
So she must have multiple cameras going at the same time because you can't stop in the middle of a watercolor painting because the drawing time will screw up.
I'm just going to fade that down.
They're very clever using multiple camera angles.
Okay, so now I'm going to take raw umber again and I'm going to begin to focus on the wing.
And this one might not be as popular because you don't see the colors she's mixing.
That body's dried just so it will softly sit there and blend, but not too much.
Let's scroll ahead a little bit, guys.
Of red on the wings as well. Okay, we'll leave the wings for a moment and we'll focus underneath here. So a little bit of this darkness again, sweeping down into the yellow there and just adding a little tip.
Again, it's amazing the quality of your brushes are
and
still that sharp.
And then we need something a little warmer, so I'm going to take a bit of cadmium red, cadmium orange, mix those two together, because there's a lovely sort of
But I think if you never use your brushes outside of watercolor or keep them separate, you'll have these sharp brushes. So
tail feathers.
It's probably my mistake using it for acrylic sometimes, and then they just glue in there, and acrylic's terrible for brushes.
Stunning bird.
Let's scroll ahead, guys. Yeah, those are really bold, dark marks.
A bit of black.
Because you can't take that off.
On the tail.
But you do need to start out like very subtle and then just kind of build because you can't take away.
It's looking great.
So it's a very challenge with black.
Okay, let's get the legs painted in. I think Moonglow is really good to get the sort of knobbly legs. So I've just done little dashes like down the legs, and now if I carefully smooth them down just either side, it means that some of the dashes get caught, some of them don't, and we end up with a lovely
That's kind of a cool technique to do the legs.
Textured, gnarly leg there.
That's a cool technique. Let's go ahead closer to the end here. She's adding some fruit.
One or two little thin parallel lines to get a tiny bit of highlight, and then I'm going to add a bit of low light with a few little knobbles of this shadowy Moonglow and burnt sienna mix we had in there earlier. And actually that is going to sort of contribute to the rest of the branch. Got a little bit of that on there, and I want the branch to be quite knobbly like that, and then a bit of raw umber.
It's too thick. To me it looks like she made the branch too thick.
What we'll do is once we've got the branches painted in, we can then establish which bit of the feet we see. But I think a larger brush would be wise at this point, so let's go for a size 2.
I like how she's updating you on what the brush size is, because that makes a huge difference if you're beginning and you're trying to follow along. There's some really thick ass branches, man. I don't know if they'd be that thick at the end,
it's
but
still wet, and of course there is.
I mean, they definitely have to be thick enough to hold the bird, so maybe that thickness makes sense. It's always interesting because I think, oh, my branches aren't that good, but then I see this, I'm like, is that crooked? I don't know. But every artist has their own interpretation, and it's kind of random how it turns out sometimes. Like those last lean, tiny marks like that are just perfectly lined are just really juicy. Like again, those really fine marks are really making that really pop. It's also very hard to keep your hand off the painting where it's going to be wet. So that's got to be very challenging too as a watercolor.
Okay, so the last few bits are to get just that eye painted in. So I'm looking closely and I can see there's...
Let's go to the final end here.
...of the feet rather than the fronts. So if I get a little bit of Mars black... and just helps sort of define that, then you can see a little bit more. Now, we're very nearly done, but what I want to do is just get a little bit more lasting detail on the berries. So a bit of Payne's Grey, and I just want to...
The music's nice too in the background. It's not
dimple
a little bit loud, but it's kind of nice because you can tell it's coming to an end. Which is kind of a cool way to end the video. Let's go to the end here. The next one. The next video is called Celebrate Lunar New Year with a Stunning Red and Gold Watercolor Dragon. Again, I might mention a name in there. Token thumbnail.
Hi everyone,
Good
and
intro here.
welcome along. Now, the Lunar New Year falls on the 11th of February, ushering in the Year of the Dragon. So what an amazing opportunity. We can paint ourselves our first ever dragon on the channel. So grab your paints and let's get started. Right, so we're going to begin with a little moon, a full moon. So you need something round. Whoops! You need something round to draw around. Let's see if I can get that. There we are. So I'm just using my washi tape roll. Feels like quite a good circle. And I'm going to fill that in with masking fluid. Once that's dry, so it's sort of tacky to the touch, we're going to start to create a sort of cloudy atmosphere around it. And I'm going to use the aptly named Moon Glow. So I've just woken that up and I've got it quite dilute in the palette there. And I'm going to start by painting in with my, this is a size 4 brush. I'm just sort of trying to create a bit of a sort of atmosphere.
This is cool because it's actually
moon,
more of a landscape
which is also going to just create a nice backdrop.
Because you did to have very minimalist
excited.
Painting.
If it's sort of dragons and like fantasy kind of stuff,
I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, guys.
Go and paint something else whilst you're waiting. Try another tutorial on the channel and come back to this once it is completely dry. Probably only take about 10 minutes. I'm just going to go for it. Let's see what happens.
I don't know if she's removed that masking.
Okay, so I'm getting lots of colour on my brush and I am going to start.
Wow. Oh, this is the dragon.
Good start. Get a bit more on.
It's very, very, very dense.
The brush down. And then I think we'll just sort of...
Like this is the one that you screwed up here, you got to start again. Which is always a challenge in watercolor.
I rather like that. So I'm just going to take now a size 6 brush and get some alizarin crimson on there. And I'm just going to sort of even out some of the shape and maybe just add a few extra sort of expressive lines.
Yeah, it's very light there.
It's also nice to see what the one-stroke brush can do when you sort of really twist it around.
All right, let's skip ahead a little bit, guys.
I'm going to use my Fine Tech Gold down here, so I've just added water to it to get it nice and thick. And
it's interesting she left that part of the tail just like empty, not filled in.
I'm going to add some.
Like to me, that just looks incomplete,
but flaming tendrils to the to the head and the ears. And then I will place in that eye there. And then the rest really, it's kind of up to us really what we want to do. Maybe just a sweep of gold. You could do a few splatters if you wanted. Feels like some...
Again, it's just like, it's amazing she left the tail translucent in that part in the middle. You're like, why didn't she fill it in with another stroke?
Maybe do a few little scales.
Yeah, that's going to really make it dragony feel.
But you can see that it's just more about the art of suggestion.
Yeah, it's definitely suggested here. A watercolor can be like that. Yeah, that's the really cool part about her style. Is just
there is.
It's very loose, just little tiny details to really make it. It's interesting she didn't fill in the eye with like a little black dot to really make it pop, but it's kind of cool, very loose. Just a little touch of paper. Let's go to her website now. It's called dewintonpaperco.com, which isn't bad, but I would have dewintonartist.com, but I like this intro that comes in here. It has a video going of her painting, which is really cool. You can see what it's about. You got little decorative flowers at the top, so it looks very beautiful. You got a color palette. You have this tiny brush of her hand painting and mixing all the colors. So it's just really, really cool way to do the intro video of showing her actually painting. So she has two businesses. I think she has handmade watercolor stationery for a wedding, which is pretty badass. It's a really nice segment to get into. It might not stand the test of time, but it's going to be one of those special things where people are going to keep it and put it in their wedding. Like, look at these invitations. These are super badass. If you do the like hand painting, wow, it's very, very artistic, very beautiful, very high end. So you can probably charge a lot for this. There's a lot of different information on here. Let's look at the about real quick. I like this really clean look. It's a lot of white, which is very typical for artwork. So her website is very tight knit with her branding, I think, with the way she paints. She only paints a little bit of color and a lot of white. I love that she has her signature as part of the thing. I don't know if I'd have all these different links to the outside like Instagram, Facebook, because you want all those links to point you, but then you kind of want to dead end it at the store, so to say. YouTube, maybe I would just have YouTube linked videos inside here. I wouldn't really necessarily say to go to YouTube, but I like how she enters, hi, I'm Harriet, so it kind of shows who she is. She lives in Devon, I think. I want to say England, but it might be in Ireland, I'm not sure. Sorry. England's like, no, it's not that area. So she does little workshops. That's really cool because that's a really great way to learn how to actually paint better as an artist, is teach other people how to paint, because you really get like how to mix better down, how to do composition better down, how to show where things are going bad, and it's going to improve your own artwork. So teaching is always a great way to make yourself even a better artist besides passing it along. She has another about page. I don't know why there's two about pages, because that was about me and this is about me. What is this about? That makes no sense why there's a double about me. So that's kind of an error, I would say. She has prints and cards. So this is her lower end artwork, so this is really great. She has a beautiful calendar. Oh, this is a digital download, so that's kind of cool. And that's kind of slick because then you don't have to pay any cost. You just download it and they pay £6, and then they get the quality of calendar they print out of whatever size they want. You just update this every year to different painting, but that's not a big deal to do one painting, and you don't have to worry about how much you get printed, because a lot of times you'll print off calendars, they don't get sold, and then you're just stuck with all these calendars and you give them away, so it's kind of a waste of your time. She has her book signed. Wow, that's not too expensive. £20 for a book. It's not bad. This is really cool because she has the color palette in her book, simple titles, simple composition, and how to develop it. She's got her related brushes that are related to her style, her recommended paint set, which is really smart. She has a download of the book, which is kind of, how to do a download digital, so that's kind of cool. It's a little bit of kind of little tiny products to go along with it besides the original artwork, so I think that's really smart to kind of have multiple streams to come in and really build your business that way. Obviously, you have to be at a certain level to be able to do that, but I think it's a really smart way to build up and have multiple money streams as an artist, because you never know. People could be hard up and can't really afford a commission, but they can't afford a print or they can't afford a small calendar or something like that. She uses his name, email. Okay, so she includes VAT, obviously. This is about 120 pounds for, I mean, a pet portrait for 108 pounds is not too bad. That's probably, I want to say $250. I'm not sure on the exchange rate at this point. It might be $300, but it is a very small pet portrait, but she's already done her own book and she's doing quite a lot of different things. It would probably be good to have like kind of a sample of maybe the portrait. Oh, here she has a gallery. Okay. So I might do, like, she has a sample of what these all cost. It's weird that the pricing is different across the same size. I mean, there's obviously way more work, but it's kind of like, why don't you just charge the same per square inch? It's a little strange. Like, I would just do $240 across the board, but up to her. I mean, she's obviously farther along than me, so maybe that price range makes sense to her. But I would have like pet portraits and then have a pet and then bouquet portrait and then a bouquet and then a house and the house. So you knew, oh, this is what you're going to kind of get. That gives you better of a suggestion, I would say. Just tons and tons of stuff here. It's just crazy stuff. Like this social, I would just leave it here and not have it at the top. But, you know, it's always, you know, on the fence because I used to have all my links too. And then I said, well, and then she has a shop. What's the difference between a shop and the rest? I don't know. See, it's super cheap. 20 pounds for her book. That's not too bad. I mean, that's probably like $30, maybe $40 US, but I don't think it's totally unreasonable because she's at a certain level. So, and it's signed. I think she's signing it, so that's super badass because it'll go up in value, which is like a no-brainer because it doesn't cost you anything to sign the book. And if she ever sells it into stores, and that'll be at a lower value, so it's kind of a cool. She's setting up multiple tiers on her income again. Yeah, just super well put together. I like how this Instagram feel of these different shop photos is probably, I want to guess, a Shopify store. I'm not sure. Very, very professional. Contact page is really simple. She has her email too as well if you want to just write directly and don't want to be on the email list, which as an artist, you shouldn't really care about that. You just want to get the actual people to contact you and then you can sort it out in the back end. It's nice to bucket them. Like she's kind of trying to bucket them with this email list with why it's XYZ it's about, but you can just write it directly and write, I don't want to fill out that form. So it's a good, because there's two ways to meet her. You can just send an email and then she has to boil it on the back end, or you fill in her form and it kind of helps her. But you don't want to force people to have to go through all of this different labeling. You can just do it on the back end, because unless you have tons and tons of commissions, you're not going to have that issue. And if you have tons of commissions, then obviously raise your prices, you know, and then you get less, you get commission versus the value. You just keep increasing. You know, supply versus demand is always like this. As the supply goes up, you know, the price go up, and then you stay at that middle point where you can actually keep up with demand. But yeah, it's a really smart website. I think it's very slick. It looks very similar to her YouTube channel as well. Yeah, the only change I would make is on the YouTube channel, put her face as the logo maybe instead of De Winton Paper. But it's not a bad idea as well, because then you know exactly where the website is. So it's a little bit on the fence of, you know, where you want people to go afterwards. So that's my recommendation. Hopefully you guys like it. If you like to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you on the next artist reaction. Bye, guys.